Have you ever been this close to a breakthrough? Whether in love, money, health, or your dream, and suddenly everything falls apart. You start doubting, second-guessing, and before you know it, you've sabotaged the very thing you were praying for. If that feels familiar, listen closely, because right now you're about to do it again. But this time you can stop it. The truth is, your world is not falling apart. It's responding. Your outer life is simply echoing the conversations and feelings you carry inside yourself. Most people live in cycles. They dream, they hope, they get excited, and then the old doubts, fears, and what-ifs return. That's the point of sabotage. It's not the world holding you back. It's the inner story you refuse to let go of. Every desire you've ever had already exists in the unseen. But the bridge to it is built by assumption. When you live in the end, when you feel yourself already having what you want, you send out a signal that life has no choice but to answer. The problem? You break the signal too early. You plant the seed but keep digging it up to check if it's growing. That's sabotage. Instead, you must persist, no matter what the outer world looks like. Circumstances are liars. They only reflect the old state you once carried. The moment you hold firm in your assumption, the reflection must change. And let's be clear, everyone in your life, every situation you face, is only a mirror of what you believe about yourself. That's why it seems like certain people or patterns keep showing up. It's not them, it's you. Change your inner conversation, and they will play a new role. Even your past is not set in stone. Memory is imagination, so if an old story haunts you, rewrite it. Revisit that moment, not with pain, but with the outcome you wish had happened. Revise it, and you'll feel the ripple shift into your present. Above all, protect your inner dialogue. The whispers you repeat when no one is listening are far more powerful than the loudest affirmations you post online. If you say within yourself, "It's mine, I already have it, it is done," the world has no option but to agree. So before you sabotage it again, pause. Ask yourself, am I reacting to the old or persisting in the new? One choice keeps you trapped in cycles. The other makes you unstoppable. Remember, your breakthrough is not waiting for permission. It's waiting for you to hold the state of already being the one who has it. Stop sabotaging it. Step into it. And this time, don't let go. Imagination is not a child's game, nor is it merely a tool for daydreaming or fantasy. It is the hidden power behind every structure, invention, achievement, and even failure in the world. Everything you see with your physical eyes once existed only in the unseen realm of imagination. The buildings you walk into, the technology you hold in your hands, the clothes you wear, and even the conversations you have. All of these were imagined before they were experienced. To understand the truth that imagination creates reality is to understand the very foundation of life itself. The outer world is not independent of your inner world. It is, instead, a mirror reflecting the pictures and feelings you repeatedly hold in your mind. You may believe that circumstances are fixed and that reality is something separate from you, but in truth, you are always shaping it whether you are conscious of it or not. What you accept as real in your imagination, especially when accompanied by strong feeling, eventually solidifies in the physical world. This is not a matter of chance but of law. Consider how easily your imagination influences your body. Imagine biting into a sour lemon. Instantly your mouth waters, your tongue tingles, and your body responds as though the lemon were physically present. Yet it exists only in thought. The body cannot distinguish between an imagined event and a physical one. It reacts faithfully to the inner picture. If imagination can affect something as immediate as your senses, why doubt that it also shapes the broader circumstances of your life? When you dwell on lack, failure, or rejection in imagination, you set those images in motion toward manifestation. Likewise, when you consistently envision success, abundance, love, or health, you generate the conditions that call them forth into your reality. The imagination is neutral. It does not discriminate between what is good or bad. It simply magnifies what you impress upon it with belief and persistence. That is why people often find themselves trapped in cycles that seem impossible to escape. They unknowingly rehearse the same pictures of defeat in their minds, and life reflects it back to them. It is not enough to imagine fleetingly or half-heartedly. The imagination must be deliberately and repeatedly directed. The key is to assume the state of already being the person you wish to be, or already having the thing you desire. This state is not forced, it is felt. When you close your eyes and enter into the scene of your fulfilled wish, you bring it to life in consciousness. You hear the sounds, see the details, and feel the emotions as though it were happening now. The more vivid the experience, the deeper the impression upon the subconscious, and the quicker it externalizes in your world. What is commonly called reality is nothing more than past imagination crystallized. The thoughts and feelings you entertained yesterday are the conditions you walk through today. This understanding places immense responsibility on you, but also immense power. For if you created unconsciously before, you can now create consciously. You are no longer a victim of circumstances, but the author of them. The world around you bends to the inner images you hold with conviction. Skeptics may argue that imagination is too weak or abstract to alter concrete facts. Yet history proves otherwise. Every great leader, inventor, or visionary was first a dreamer who refused to let the inner picture go. The Wright brothers imagined flying before the first airplane left the ground. Thomas Edison imagined light filling a room before the light bulb was born. Every work of art, every discovery, and every movement that has shaped civilization began in imagination. If their dreams could transcend the impossible, what limits exist except the ones you impose on yourself? Your task is not to fight against circumstances or wrestle with the external world. That only strengthens what you do not want. Your task is to master the inner picture, to claim in imagination what you wish to see in fact. The world will then move in ways you cannot predict to bring the unseen into the scene. People, opportunities, and resources align themselves with the vision you persist in holding. It may appear as coincidence, but it is not. It is law in action. Even so, called negative memories or failures can be reshaped by imagination. When you revisit them in thought and reframe them as you wish they had been, you neutralize their power over you. The subconscious accepts the revised picture as the truth, and your present experience shifts accordingly. Thus, imagination not only creates the future but also redeems the past. Imagination is the creative force, and feeling is the fuel. Cold, detached thinking produces little, but when your imagination is saturated with emotion, joy, gratitude, confidence, it takes root. The heart must agree with the mind. To imagine with feeling is to impress the subconscious, and once impressed, it will faithfully outpicture what you have accepted. This is why idle daydreaming does not transform reality. Wishing and hoping without conviction are weak, but imagining with intensity as if the event is already a fact awakens a new state of consciousness, and consciousness is the only reality. When your inner state changes, your outer world must follow suit, though the means of its unfolding may be hidden from you. So if your current life feels like a prison, recognize that it is only the echo of old imaginal acts. You are not doomed to repeat them unless you persist in them. You can change the picture right now. Instead of rehearsing failure, rehearse victory. Instead of anticipating disappointment, anticipate joy. Instead of dwelling on lack, dwell on abundance. What you repeatedly imagine with faith becomes the world you eventually walk through. To live in the end is to step into the state of already being the person who has what you desire, even before there is any physical proof. It is not about waiting for circumstances to shift or evidence to appear. It is about assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled and dwelling in that state as though it were the only reality. When you adopt this stance, life has no choice but to reorganize itself to match the conviction you carry within. The outer world is nothing more than the reflection of the inner world, so the state you persist in inwardly will eventually shape the experiences you walk through outwardly. Most people live from the state of lack. They want something, but they constantly remind themselves they do not have it yet. They desire abundance but keep repeating thoughts of poverty. They long for love yet dwell on loneliness. They wish for success yet hold conversations within themselves that predict failure. By doing so, they continue to live in the old state, and because the world mirrors their state, it keeps confirming the very lack they are trying to escape. Living in the end is the reversal of this pattern. Instead of focusing on what is missing, you step into the assumption that it is already yours. You stop waiting for proof and begin living as though proof is unnecessary. This principle can be illustrated in a simple way. Imagine an actor preparing for a role. To portray a character convincingly, the actor must inhabit the character's mind, feelings, and actions long before the audience ever sees the performance. They do not wait for the stage or the applause to feel like the character. They live in that role before anyone else recognizes it. In the same way, you become the actor of your desired state. By dwelling in the end result, you rehearse the feeling of the fulfilled wish until it becomes natural, and the stage of life eventually reflects it back to you. Living in the end is not about forcing circumstances or manipulating people. It is about shifting identity. When you truly assume the feeling of already having what you want, your thoughts, actions, and reactions naturally align with that state. If you live in the end of wealth, you stop thinking like someone who is broke. If you live in the end of love, you stop seeing yourself as unwanted. If you live in the end of health, you no longer treat your body as broken. The world must conform to the identity you persistently assume because consciousness precedes form. A key element of living in the end is emotion. Merely saying, "I have it," without feeling it will not create the shift. The subconscious responds to feeling, not words. When you close your eyes and imagine the scene that would take place after your wish is fulfilled, you must feel the joy, the relief, the gratitude, or the satisfaction that naturally follows. It is not about straining to visualize every detail perfectly, but about capturing the essence of the experience. Once you feel it to be true, you have impressed the new state upon yourself, and it is only a matter of persistence before it hardens into fact. Some people hesitate to live in the end because they fear they are deluding themselves. But the truth is that everyone already lives in assumptions. Every day you assume things about yourself, others, and the world, and those assumptions shape your experience. Living in the end is not self-deception. It is the conscious choice to assume what uplifts you instead of unconsciously assuming what limits you. If you assume failure, the world obliges. If you assume success, the world obliges. Either way, life is reorganizing itself according to your dominant state, so the question becomes not whether you are imagining, but what you are imagining. The beauty of this practice is that you do not need to know how your desire will unfold. The path is not your responsibility, the state is. Once you live in the end, unseen forces and hidden connections arrange themselves to deliver the outcome in ways beyond your calculation. Doors you could not have forced open begin to swing wide. People you never expected to meet cross your path. Solutions appear that you could not have devised. To the logical mind, it may look like coincidence, but in truth, it is the inevitable result of living from the end. Persistence is the final ingredient. It is easy to dwell in the state briefly and then slip back into old doubts when outer reality does not shift immediately. But persistence means you continue to live in the end regardless of appearances. You refuse to be fooled by the evidence of the senses, knowing it reflects only the past state. You hold firm in your assumption until it becomes so natural that it feels impossible not to have it. And when that point is reached, manifestation is certain, for the world cannot withhold what you already embody in consciousness. Living in the end is liberation. It frees you from waiting, from hoping, from postponing your joy until tomorrow. It allows you to inhabit the future now and to experience its reality within before it arrives without. By making the inner state more real to you than the outer appearance, you shift the cause and the effect must follow. This practice is not wishful thinking, it is creative certainty. It is the art of becoming in imagination what you desire to be until life bows to your assumption and mirrors it back to you in undeniable form. The past is often regarded as unchangeable, a collection of fixed events carved into stone, untouchable and beyond influence. People carry memories as though they are eternal verdicts, binding them to pain, regret, or failure. Yet, the truth is that the past is not rigid, it is fluid, and it exists only as memory within the mind. Memory itself is imagination, and imagination is the creative force. To recognize this is to realize that the past can be revised. By mentally re-imagining events the way you wish they had happened, you dissolve their lingering power and rewrite the script that is shaping your present reality. Every memory you hold is not the event itself, but your current image of it. When you recall a painful moment, you are not reliving the actual occurrence. You are replaying your imagined version of it in the now. And because the subconscious does not distinguish between memory and present experience, it treats your recall as something happening again. That is why old wounds continue to influence you. By revisiting the memory imagination and altering it to match the outcome you wish had been true, you implant a new version into the subconscious. This new image then radiates into the present, shifting how you feel, how you react, and ultimately what you experience. Consider the weight many people carry from childhood experiences. Perhaps a parent spoke harshly, a teacher humiliated them, or a friend betrayed their trust. Though those events are long past, the echo remains alive in memory, shaping self-image and expectations. A person who was told repeatedly they were not good enough may unconsciously expect rejection in adulthood. But when they revise that memory, when they imagine the parent offering love instead of criticism, the teacher offering encouragement instead of shame, the friend offering loyalty instead of betrayal, the emotional charge changes. The subconscious accepts the new picture, and the individual's self-concept shifts. In turn, life begins to mirror this revised state, bringing experiences of acceptance and affirmation instead of rejection. Revision does not mean denying or ignoring the past. It means reclaiming creative authority over it. Since memory is imagination, and imagination is malleable, you have the ability to reshape what you carry forward. You do not erase history, you transform its meaning. When you change how you see a past event, you dissolve its power to wound you, and you free yourself from repeating its pattern. This practice also reveals that time is not as linear as commonly believed. The past is not behind you, fixed and dead. It is alive within you right now, influencing your present through memory. By revising it, you shift the root from which your present experience grows. The tree of your life changes because you have altered the seed. This is why revision can feel miraculous. Situations in the present may suddenly improve without obvious reason. Relationships heal, opportunities arise, and burdens lift because the subconscious no longer carries the old story. Imagine, for example, someone who failed at a business venture years ago and has since been haunted by the fear of trying again. If they revise that memory, if they imagine the business flourishing, customers delighted, and success unfolding, the subconscious absorbs the new picture. The fear dissipates because the root memory has been transformed. In the present, this individual approaches new ventures with confidence instead of hesitation, and life responds accordingly. The method of revision is simple but profound. At the end of the day, as you drift into sleep, you recall the events that trouble you. Instead of reliving them as they happened, you imagine them as you wish they had happened. You replay the scene until it feels natural, until the new version is more vivid to you than the old one. Then you let sleep carry this new image into the subconscious. Over time, the revised memory replaces the old, and your present reality shifts to reflect the change. Revision is not limited to childhood or distant memories. It can be applied immediately. If today you had an argument with someone, you can, before sleep, imagine the conversation ending in harmony instead of conflict. If you made a mistake at work, you can imagine yourself performing flawlessly. The subconscious accepts the revised scene, and the emotional residue of failure or conflict dissolves. When you wake, you carry a lighter state, and life aligns with the new assumption. Some may question whether altering the past in imagination has any real effect, since the physical event cannot be undone. But the power lies not in altering history itself, but in altering the consciousness that remembers it. Since consciousness creates reality, changing the internal story inevitably changes the outer reflection. People often report that after practicing revision, relationships improve, apologies are offered, or circumstances shift in ways that mirror the revised version. This is not coincidence, but the natural law of assumption at work. Ultimately, revision is an act of liberation. It frees you from being the prisoner of memory and restores you as the author of your story. No longer do you have to carry the weight of regret, guilt, or failure. You can return to any scene, reimagine it, and claim a new outcome. The past does not bind you, for it is only the residue of imagination. By changing it, you change your present and your future. Revision transforms pain into peace, failure into success, and rejection into love. Because what you carry in imagination is what life must reflect. One of the most radical yet transformative truths is that everyone you encounter and every circumstance you face is a reflection of your own inner assumptions and conversations. Life is a mirror, and it reflects not what you consciously wish for, but what you deeply believe to be true about yourself and others. When you begin to understand that everyone is you pushed out, you realize that the outer world is not an independent force acting against you, but a projection of your own inner states of consciousness. At first, this idea can feel uncomfortable, even confronting. After all, it is far easier to blame others for their behavior, to resent the unfairness of life, or to assume that circumstances arise by accident or fate. But when you see the deeper law at work, you begin to understand that people play roles in your life according to the script you have assigned them in your imagination. The things you repeatedly say about others, whether silently or aloud, are eventually mirrored back to you in their behavior. The judgments you hold about yourself and the stories you replay within your mind set the tone for how others treat you. Consider a person who constantly believes they are unworthy of love. They may not say this out loud, but their inner dialogue whispers it day after day. As a result, they notice rejection more than acceptance. They interpret neutral actions as signs of disinterest, and they attract partners who seem to confirm their lack of worth. It is not that life has conspired against them, but that their own assumptions have colored the lens through which they experience reality. When they change their inner story, when they begin to assume they are valued, cherished, and desired, others respond differently. People reflect back the new assumption, for everyone is simply playing the part assigned to them in your script. This truth does not mean that others have no free will, but it does mean that in your personal reality, They cannot act outside of the role you imagine for them. If you persist in assuming someone dislikes you, you will continue to see evidence of it. If you imagine instead that they respect and admire you, their behavior begins to align with your new state. This shift may happen subtly, through altered tones of voice, unexpected kindness, or changed dynamics, but it is inevitable because the outer world has no choice but to reflect the inner world. Circumstances, too, are shaped in this way. If you walk through life expecting difficulties, delays, or disappointments, you will meet them at every corner. If, however, you assume that life flows smoothly for you, that opportunities come easily, and that things always work in your favor, you will experience those assumptions reflected in your daily encounters. The world bends to the self-concept you carry. Understanding this principle also dissolves the illusion of separation. The people in your life are not strangers acting independently, they are mirrors showing you what you truly believe. This realization empowers you, because instead of trying to force others to change, you focus on transforming yourself. When you shift your inner conversations, others naturally take on new roles. If you see someone as unkind, revise the image you hold of them and imagine them treating you with warmth. If you believe your boss is critical, imagine them praising your work. If you think your family misunderstands you, imagine them listening with love and understanding. These inner changes are not fantasy. They are seeds planted in consciousness, and the harvest appears in outer experience. To apply this principle effectively, pay close attention to your inner dialogue. Notice the silent words you repeat about yourself and others. Are you affirming rejection, failure, and criticism? Or are you affirming love, success, and respect? The subconscious mind accepts whatever you consistently impress upon it, and once accepted, it must express it through the people and events of your life. Guard your inner speech carefully, for it is scripting the roles that others will play in your story. A powerful practice is to revise past interactions by imagining them as you wish they had been. If someone argued with you, replay the scene in imagination with them speaking kindly. If someone ignored you, imagine them showing affection. These revisions alter the impression stored in the subconscious, and the relationship shifts accordingly. You may find that the next time you meet, they behave in alignment with your revised assumption. It may feel miraculous, but it is simply the law of consciousness unfolding. When you accept that everyone is you pushed out, resentment and blame lose their hold. Instead of seeing others as enemies, you recognize them as mirrors. Their actions point you back to your own assumptions, giving you the opportunity to change within. If someone criticizes you rather than resisting, ask yourself what part of you has been affirming criticism. If life seems unfair, ask what story you have been repeating about struggle or difficulty. Then, consciously adopt a new assumption. Imagine yourself respected, supported, and favored. Persist in this new inner story, and life will reorganize itself to confirm it. This principle is not about manipulation but transformation. You are not forcing others to change against their will. You are altering the vision through which you see them. And in doing so, you allow them to reveal a new aspect of themselves. You do not need to control the outer world, you only need to master the inner. The roles people play are fluid, and as you change your assumptions, they reflect the new script. Ultimately, this understanding restores power to you. No longer do you feel at the mercy of others or trapped by circumstance. You realize that life is your mirror, faithfully reflecting the contents of your inner world. When you change the way you see yourself, the reflection must change. When you uplift your assumptions, the people around you uplift their behavior. When you fill your inner conversations with love, respect, and abundance, the world has no choice but to echo them back to you in countless forms. The outer world often appears as a stubborn opponent, presenting conditions that seem to contradict your deepest desires. You may imagine success yet find yourself facing setbacks. You may assume love yet encounter rejection. You may believe in abundance yet see evidence of lack. In such moments, the temptation is strong to surrender, to conclude that imagination has no power, and to allow circumstances to dictate your state of being. But this is precisely where the principle of persistence reveals its transformative force. The outer world may delay or even appear to deny your vision, but unwavering faith held within eventually bends reality to match your assumption. Persistence is the bridge between inner vision and outer manifestation. A single act of imagining or affirming may plant the seed, but persistence waters it until it blooms. Most people abandon their vision too quickly. They expect instant results, and when the senses show no change, they fall back into doubt. In doing so, they return to the old state, and life continues to reflect the old story. Persistence means refusing to be deceived by appearances, knowing that what you hold within must eventually harden into fact if you remain faithful to it. The world you see today is not the immediate product of your current assumptions, but the lingering shadow of your past states. Just as a ship at sea takes time to turn after the wheel has shifted, life takes time to reflect a new inner state. Many people lose faith during this interval, mistaking delay for denial. Yet delay is only the unfolding of the bridge of events, the natural sequence through which the new assumption comes to fruition. To persist is to remain unmoved during this time, to stand firm in the inner vision regardless of what the senses report. History is filled with examples of persistence triumphing over circumstance. The great inventors, artists, and visionaries did not succeed because conditions were favorable from the beginning. They succeeded because they refused to abandon their vision in the face of obstacles. Thomas Edison's countless attempts before perfecting the light bulb, the Wright brothers' repeated failures before flight, or any individual who has defied the odds, each demonstrates the same principle. They held fast to an inner assumption of success long enough for the outer world to yield. Persistence was the difference between defeat and victory. On a personal level, persistence requires vigilance over your inner conversations. If you imagine yourself wealthy in the evening, but spend the day worrying about bills, you are canceling your own work. If you affirm love at night but complain about loneliness by day, you are feeding the old state. To persist is to consistently return to the inner vision, no matter how often the old story tempts you. It is not about suppressing doubt, but about refusing to dwell in it. The moment you notice yourself slipping into fear or worry, you gently but firmly return to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. This steady redirection builds momentum, and in time, the new state becomes natural. Persistence is also the practice of emotional loyalty. You remain loyal to the feeling of the desired state, even when the evidence contradicts it. If you seek health, you imagine yourself vibrant and strong, even when the body appears weak. If you seek abundance, you feel the joy of plenty, even when the bank account is empty. If you seek harmony, you assume peace, even if conflict surrounds you. This is not denial of reality, but recognition that inner reality is the cause, and outer reality is the effect. By persisting in the cause, you guarantee a shift in the effect. It is important to understand that persistence does not mean strain or struggle. It is not about forcing yourself to believe against your will, but about gently returning to your chosen state again and again until it becomes familiar. Just as a path is carved in the forest by repeated walking, a state is impressed upon the subconscious by repeated dwelling. The first time may feel unnatural, but persistence makes it natural, and what becomes natural inevitably becomes real. Circumstances often test your persistence. The moment you declare a new vision, life may seem to present opposite evidence. This is not a sign of failure, but a natural reaction. Old states are being dissolved, and their residue surfaces before disappearing. Many give up at this stage, concluding that the vision has no power. Yet those who persist through the contradiction find that the outer world eventually bends to their unwavering faith. The seeming resistance is nothing more than the echo of the old assumption fading away. Persistence also deepens trust. By holding firm despite appearances, you learn to rely less on the senses and more on the unseen power within. You discover that faith is not wishful thinking, but creative certainty. Every time you persist and witness reality conform, your conviction grows stronger. The next challenge finds you less shaken, for you know by experience that persistence is always rewarded. Ultimately, persistence over circumstance is the demonstration that consciousness is the only reality. Circumstances are not causes but effects, and they cannot endure against a sustained assumption. When you remain faithful to the vision of who you desire to be, the world must reorganize itself around that vision. The outer may delay, but it cannot resist forever, for the inner is the true authority. Through persistence, you become the master of circumstance rather than its victim, bending reality to match the truth you have claimed within. The most powerful conversations you will ever have are not with other people, but with yourself. These quiet, constant whispers running through your mind shape the blueprint of your future. They form the assumptions you carry, the beliefs you embody, and the states of consciousness that life eventually reflects back to you. Inner dialogue is not mere background noise, it is the architect of destiny. When you realize that the words you speak within determine the experiences you live without, you begin to guard your inner conversations as carefully as you would guard treasure. Every thought carries an impression, and every impression shapes your self-concept. If your inner dialogue is filled with criticism, doubt, and fear, you reinforce a state of limitation, and life mirrors it through rejection, failure, or struggle. If your inner dialogue is saturated with encouragement, love, and confidence, you affirm a state of abundance, and life obliges with opportunities, harmony, and success. The words you repeat to yourself create the state in which you dwell, and the state in which you dwell is the seed of your future. Consider how inner dialogue influences self-image. A person who constantly tells themselves, "I am not good enough," may outwardly strive for success, but inwardly they are rehearsing failure. They may attract dismissive bosses, critical partners, or disappointing results, not because life is cruel, but because life must reflect their inner assumption. On the other hand, someone who affirms within, "I am valuable, I am capable, I am loved," shapes a self-image that attracts supportive people and favorable conditions. The difference between the two is not talent or luck, but the quality of their inner speech. Inner dialogue also sets the tone for relationships. What you say about others in the privacy of your mind is more important than what you say to their face. If you constantly think, "They don't appreciate me," or "They always misunderstand me," you script their behavior in your personal reality. They begin to act in ways that fulfill your assumption because your state projects it. But if you shift your inner words to, "They value me, they see my worth, they enjoy my presence," you invite new roles for them to play. This does not mean forcing people to change, but rather altering the way you see them, which compels life to mirror that new vision. The subconscious mind listens attentively to your inner speech. Unlike casual words spoken to others, inner dialogue is unfiltered and deeply personal, making it more powerful. When you repeatedly tell yourself something, the subconscious accepts it as fact, whether it is constructive or destructive. Once accepted, it directs your behavior, shapes your expectations, and attracts circumstances that align with it. This is why guarding inner conversations is essential. To allow negative dialogue to run unchecked is to plant seeds of discord in your own garden. Changing inner dialogue begins with awareness. Most people are so accustomed to their mental chatter that they rarely notice its content. Start by observing the tone of your thoughts. Do you encourage or discourage yourself? Do you rehearse victory or defeat? Do you affirm love or loneliness? Awareness reveals the pattern, and once revealed, you have the power to change it. Each time you catch yourself speaking negatively within, you can gently replace it with a constructive alternative. Over time, the new dialogue becomes habitual, and your state of being shifts accordingly. Another powerful practice is to deliberately script your inner conversations in alignment with your desires. Instead of waiting for circumstances to improve, you imagine conversations that would occur if your wish were fulfilled. If you desire success, imagine a friend congratulating you and hear yourself saying, "Thank you, it means so much." If you desire love, imagine your partner expressing affection and hear yourself responding with joy. These imagined conversations, repeated and felt as real, impress the subconscious and set in motion the outer reflection. The impact of inner dialogue extends beyond personal success. It influences health, well-being, and even how you experience the world itself. A person who constantly tells themselves, "I am always tired, I am weak, I never feel well," may find their body conforming to those words. Another who affirms, "I am strong, I am healing, I feel alive," may experience vitality and resilience. The body responds to the inner script, just as relationships and circumstances do. Persistence is crucial in shaping inner dialogue. The mind may try to revert to old patterns, especially if they have been rehearsed for years. But persistence means choosing again and again to return to constructive speech. Even if the outer world has not yet shifted, you remain loyal to the new dialogue. Eventually, it becomes second nature, and what once felt forced becomes natural. Life cannot resist this change, for the outer is compelled to mirror the inner. When you understand the creative power of inner speech, you no longer dismiss your thoughts as harmless. You recognize them as instructions to life itself. Every time you say within, "I can't," you command limitation. Every time you say within, "I can," you command possibility. Every time you affirm love, success, health, or joy, you are laying the foundation for those experiences to appear. Your future is not determined by chance or fate, but by the ongoing conversation you carry within. Inner dialogue is the silent author of destiny. By mastering it, you master life. The words you whisper to yourself shape your self-image, script your relationships, guide your behavior, and influence every circumstance you meet. To guard these words is to guard your future. To consciously choose constructive, empowering, and loving dialogue is to choose a reality that reflects those qualities in abundance.